Hi, it's Kirk Halton. Welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal channel. And this evening's guests are the Danish sludge noise rock trio Kollapse. And I'm joined by the vocalist and guitar player Peter Clements Lunt and the bassist and vocalist Thomas Martin Hansen. Welcome to the channel, guys. Just off camera, before we even started this, you were just telling me about the origins of the band. Now, I remember your 2021 Sult album, but I'm not familiar with any discography before that. So did you say, is there a 2017 album called Angst?
Yeah, looks like this. Our first little adventure in a full length. We made it with a different lineup. We had a different singer and guitarist, and at some point we got a second guitarist, but those guys aren't in the band anymore. It was sort of a feeling out process, trying to get to a certain sound. So yeah, when we got Peter, things started to change and mutate in a way. And I think we're happy with the first album, but I think we really hit our stride with Sult.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I didn't realize, Peter, that you are not a founding member of the band, because obviously you're a trio now and you handle guitar and I imagine 50% at least of the vocals. What's your background before you joined Kollapse, Peter?
Well, actually, because we're all from a pretty small town in Denmark, so we all sort of knew each other. Our drummer, the other Peter in the band, I've known him a long time, right? And Thomas was more a guy I knew of, like, oh, he's that mad guy who with the insane vocals, right? Before, I think that this was even before you guys played in Kollapse. Peter had a band called A.D.K, which was very much a sort of post-metal, prog, heavy, really nice stuff. And I played in a bunch of local bands, and we just played some shows, and we talked a bit, and then I remember when they released the first album, the Angst album. I was at the release party and I heard the album. I thought it was awesome, and then I still play in in a progressive rock, acid rock band called Monkey OK, which is a bunch of old guys that just really want to play Pink Floyd stuff, which is very far from what I'm doing here. And then I went to the release of the Angst album. I thought it was awesome. And then 6 months after, the band disbanded, and I thought that was a bummer. And then I think, yeah, it was the end of 2018. Then Peter approached me and asked, "Hey, do you want to come try and jam with me and Thomas?" And then I said yes. And then they told me they were thinking about restarting the Kollapse project. And then I said yes, and we started jamming. And actually, initially, we were a four-piece when I started, because the old guitar player, Frederik, was still he was, in the beginning when we reformed, he was still part of the band, but not for very, very long. We wrote some songs, and then after, I think maybe 6 months, he decided he didn't have the heart he didn't have his heart in it. And then we sort of ended up being a three-piece, and then we looked at each other and said maybe we should just keep going, and then we just kept going, and we wrote the Sult record. So I sort of stumbled into the band, and before this I played a bunch of different stuff, from conventional rock to very sort of progressive heavy metal, all sorts of different stuff. Never anything that really took off. And then when we ended up in this three-piece, I just think everything clicked. The three of us just found something that musically made sense. We were very fast to figure out at least a pretty sort of a pretty clear direction of what we wanted to do, and then I think we were all surprised to some sense that Sult was received the way it was. I was definitely very sort of surprised that people really enjoyed it the way they did, and like a lot of good stuff happened after we released that album. So everything else I've done before has sort of taken a back seat, and now this is the main project. It's the one where I write the music I want to write. I play with the people I want to play with. It's just I think everything just happened, and all the stars and planets aligned, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Now, Thomas, I've got a question for you then. When I was preparing for this interview, one of the questions was going to be, why did you reduce from a quintet to a trio, which Peter's explained and you have as well. The person who left after Angst, who didn't return when Peter started jamming,
yeah,
have you spoken to him? Has he heard the last two albums that you put out?
Yes, I think he has. He's got another band going, which is, I think, it's more in line with his personality and how he likes to present the music. One of my major concerns with getting a new member for this project was basically if he had the stomach for it, because it's kind of a bleak atmosphere sometimes, and I think we can be quite difficult to work with, because Peter, the drummer, and we just know how we want everything. And yeah, I was worried if we could find anyone in our hometown who had that sort of mentality to just be uncompromising in the vision. So the writing process can be quite grueling sometimes, and I guess this other guitar player who left, he just didn't have he sort of gave up on all that.
It probably takes a lot out of you emotionally, doesn't it, this music?
Yeah, we pour so much into it, and it's kind of an extension of our lives and our personalities, and it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, I think. But I've known the drummer for, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 years, more, maybe 15. I'm old. I don't really dates and stuff. Yeah, disappears. But I actually met him because of his old band, A.D.K. And we were out drinking, both of us, and I think I had on an ISIS t-shirt at that point, and we just connected over the love of Aaron Turner.
Yeah.
And when we started playing together, I didn't play like Peter in any way. I came from a punk rock background, noise rock background. Not really. I don't have a huge interest in very complicated prog-ish stuff. But somehow we got to get it to work just by being honest and yeah, hammering off the chips when we started writing. Initially, it was kind of a post-industrial kind of sound, like a Godflesh with a lot of samples and stuff. But I think what came to be the first EP and the album is more like a rock-based. It's got the heaviness and this kind of sludgy, dragging tempo that we both love. We also connected over stuff like Neurosis. They're like a huge influence for both Peter and I. But anyway, yeah, when we got Peter here, things definitely started to mutate into something that's a bit more interesting, in my opinion, because his style of playing is very naughty and weird, and his riffs, yeah, I don't know how he writes it, but yeah, it's very much him.
Yeah, do you know what's unique about if we are to style Kollapse as a post-metal band? I mean, I love Neurosis and Cult of Luna, and they don't, to me, I don't really listen to them for riffs. But you actually do play some really tasty, like palm-muted riffs in this music, especially on this new album as well. And that just caught me by surprise because it's normally just about anguish and trauma, isn't it? And really just full-on audio assault on your senses, and that's what I love about this music. But you're right, I think the guitar playing, I can tell that you come from more of a prog background. Did you say, Peter?
Yeah, I think I come from a different yeah, some of it is prog. I think what's surprised me is that we've had a few reviewers who have caught on to things I've listened to a lot. Like we haven't been very vocal about like what does this sound like when we talk about it, but like there have been reviewers that have pointed out, well, I get a sense of like something like Poison the Well, which is something I've listened incredibly a lot to. Like so, and I think those things tend to shine through sometimes when I write riffs, and I think that's what like that's I think that's what I bring to the table is this like this different background. And I think also that's what makes the band work the way it does, is that we all three of us have very different, like not very different, it's not like I'm a bluegrass player or anything, but like we have different styles of music that we all come from. And I think the combination of those three, like Peter is a very sort of like, he loves Neurosis, but he's also like a huge fucking Tool fan, like, and he's and he can't escape that. And like I think, and Thomas is just very much like he's just a, I don't even know what Thomas's background is. Like Thomas's background in music is like everything that's awesome. He knows everything about music. He's like an encyclopedia of music, and he knows every single fucking great album that's ever been released. So I think those are the things that shine through when we write. It is that we know where we want to go, but the way we get there is different for each of us, and I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, I can hear. You said punk rock. I can hear some hardcore in the music as well. Do you know when you said finding someone who can stomach the music? Your bass guitar is so loud in the mix. It growls through the speakers. It grunts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Peter, what was that like when you turned up for the first rehearsal to jam with him? We were like, do you normally have your bass that loud?
It was, I think I remember when I was very nervous as well, like because I remember thinking that like this, because I played it in a bunch of different bands and I liked playing in them, but this was very different from anything I'd ever played in before. So I was very nervous if I was even able to do it right. Like, could I fit into this context where I actually think it sounds very, very good, but I'm very sort of out of my comfort zone. And yes, like getting into that rehearsal space and just watching Thomas straight up murder a jazz bass was just like, it was very surprising to me. But it was also very, very, very sort of intriguing. I felt very, I had never really been in a band context with a bassist that plays like Thomas plays. It's very aggressive. It's very loud. It's very physical. But I was instantly sort of attracted to it. So I was surprised, but like I was more nervous than I was anything else, I think.
Yeah, Thomas, that bass, it reminds me of bands like Ken Mode and what they call Chat Pile, that American noise rock band. Really, yeah. I love the tone that you've got in there. I mean, that you're basically just chugging like that's a guitar. It's so heavy. You've just done a tour, haven't you, of Germany and France as well? You did 9 dates in April. Your
Yeah.
label mates have got an album coming out that's on my review list, Demersal as well. I think, are they a bit more post-hardcore with a bit of mathcore in there? What's their music?
I think they're pretty comfortable with calling it screamo.
Okay.
Yeah. Or emo violence. I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't really sound alike in any way, actually. They play a very saturated, hectic sort of really busy drums and fast fills and stuff. It's very, very energetic and very powerful. I just think maybe we just like those guys also as people, and we were talking about bands that we could potentially tour with for more than 3 days without the egos getting in the way. And those guys were on the top of the list. They're super nice guys, and it was just very smooth. No arguments, and people just worked hard and played hard every night. So really happy to do it with them. Yeah.
Yeah, that label that you're on, is it called Physis Format Records? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, fysisk format.
Yeah, it's Norwegian.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. There's some good bands on that. I've reviewed over the last 2 years. I get quite a lot sent through, and the standard's always very much is noise rock, experimental metal, hardcore. So I can see why you fit on that, even though
they even have some folk bands and some more popish kind of indie bands, and I think that's one of the initial draws. It's very kind of eclectic, but they have high standards for their stuff. I know the band Åra Brot from one of the first just really big bands that broke through on Fysisk Format. And that was probably the band that initially drew me to contacting them. They're really good people. Christian, who runs it, I had a lot of back and forth mailing correspondence with him. He had a lot of questions, and he wanted to know exactly why we chose Fysisk Format for the album, and I kind of like that because he doesn't want to do anything half-hearted, I think. So it's just a great label for us, and I'm half Norwegian, so also I was really happy about it. He helped us out a lot.
Yeah, like the last record they basically did like they put out the record, but they also handled all the vinyl pressing and all that stuff, and yeah, as Thomas says, Christian is just a really good guy. He really likes what he does. He really enjoys, like, it sounds stupid when you say it, but he really enjoys music, but he like really enjoys music, and he knows what quality is, and he's invested in the stuff he does. He doesn't do it to get rich. He does it because he's passionate about it. They have a record store in Oslo as well, that we visited. We visit when we're up there, and like, he's just a really good guy that wants to help really good music out into the world. And they were like, I remember when we sent out Sult. Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth, but not like, I'm not sure I want to release it. More like, as Thomas said, he had a bunch of questions, and as soon as we were on board, it just went really fast. Like, he did a lot of work. And the same with this record. He's a real pleasure to work with, and we just hope we can keep putting out records on his label.
Yeah, he seems very honest, and he surrounds himself with good people. I don't think I've met anyone associated with the label who wasn't a nice person. They made us coffee the first time we visited the store, and it was just really cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hygge.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about that, won't we? Off camera. It sounds like, are you familiar with that Swiss label, Hummus Records?
Yeah, it's fun because I did like this is a complete side story, but I did a tour in February where I was like a crew for a Danish band called Town Portal, and I met the guys from Hummus Records in Munich, and they're just I talked to them. They're really nice guys as well. They put out a lot of great stuff. The sound guy on the tour was the bassist from Coil Guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we just met them, and yeah, that's a really nice label as well.
Yeah, I interviewed Jonah Nida,
Yeah.
the guitar player. I think you probably met him, didn't you?
Yeah.
He formed a band for that Dutch festival, Roadburn, last year. It was commissioned. Yeah. It's called, did you hear his music? Trance.
Yeah.
What an album that was. It was so extreme. I was blown away by it. So I interviewed him for that. But Coil Guns have just supported Pupil Slicer here in England. I had tickets and couldn't go in the end, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, it sounds like Fuchs's format are very similar to Hummus Records. It's by musicians for musicians, lovers of music, because you can't take that for granted. You know, today I've been doing a video about Celtic Frost, and that record label they were on, Noise Records, had a dreadful reputation even in the 1980s for just not paying its artists. They didn't want to promote, and they had Creator and Voivod and all these great bands, and they just mismanaged them. So it's good that you're in a position, and you tend to cluster, don't you, with like-minded artists who play music that you like. You want to be together as well, and you know, clearly you're creating a scene there as well. So the other thing I noticed is Brad Boatwright at Audio Siege has mastered this album, and I'm just looking at albums I have reviewed in the last 6 weeks. Mastiff, Baal, Nag, that Norwegian band, Iron Monkey. This guy just appears on so many.
He's everywhere.
Why is it? What's so special about his mastering services? What is it that he offers that's unique?
I think with it's probably because we recorded with Jakob Bredal, who did he did a lot of stuff here in Denmark, like the LLNN albums, and he seems to have a really tight relationship with Brad. And I was a huge From Ashes Rise fan back in the day, so I was just really happy that he had that working relationship, and we really liked how the first album sounded. He knows his stuff, so yeah, it's kind of more like a coincidence because of Jakob Bredal, I think. But if he wants to do the next one, he definitely can.
Yeah, it's funny because he mastered the first Kollapse, the Angst album, but the Sult album was actually mastered by James Plotkin. And we asked him because, well, he's fucking James Plotkin, right? And we were actually thinking about doing it again this time, but we had like the our album was mixed by Scott Evans. And when it came to the mastering process, he asked us and Bredal, like we had an email thread where we were all involved, like who do we want to master? And we went, like last time it was James Plotkin, but we don't know. And then Scott just said, how about Brad? I have a good relationship with Brad. And then Jakob, we knew Jakob had the same relationship. And then we just went, well, let's let Brad do it. And then it turned out awesome. Like I think he gets a lot of stuff done because first of all, he's very efficient. Like he's very good at what he does. There's no sort of dilly-dallying around or anything. He gets to the point. He knows. He's pretty fast at picking up what people want. And I think what I thought was really nice about this process was that when we sent this record to the mastering process with Brad, Scott was still very much involved. So when the first masters came back, we listened, Scott listened, and then we sort of discussed what we thought, what Scott thought, and then we sort of all pooled our thoughts together and then sent to Brad, and then he said, "Oh, that's fine, let's do that." And like he's very easy to work with, and he's very good at what he's doing.
Yeah, again with the egos. Yeah,
No egos.
I think
No egos in post metal.
we kind of knew exactly what we wanted. It took a couple of steps to get there, but Brad didn't put up much of a fight. I
No.
think he's very open.
Yeah.
That's how it seems to me, anyway. And he got it just right. I think this is probably the R album. Is probably it's how I always wanted to sound on record, down to the gritty small details and even the feedback and the atmosphere on it. It's just perfect. So the mastering and mixing is super important. We're just lucky to get to work with three talented guys. Because that stuff is never easy. It's nothing worse than getting an album back and putting it on and thinking, "Oh, this sounds kind of all right."
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case with R in any way.
Yeah, do you know I listen to this music all the time, and I'm always thinking, why? I mean, I'm age 41 now, and I was thinking, why can I listen to post metal and sludge every day of the week? Because this is really quite traumatic music, isn't it?
Yeah.
And but there are no grandiose gestures in this music. There are no egos, but there is a high-minded level of art as well. It's a paradox, isn't it? And why is your music so mired in anguish and pain? Not necessarily the lyrics, but even the music itself, the language of the music is very abrasive.
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, that's a big question. It has kind of two things, like the sound itself. I think, like Peter talked about earlier, you kind of tend to internalize a lot of the stuff that you listen to through the years. Steve Albini just died. That was a huge blow for me. But the sound that he got on the Big Black albums, the metallic clanking sound, that's stayed with me ever since the early 90s when I started listening to his stuff. And I think that's been pulling at me from the inside, trying to get out. And I think we kind of at least nailed it a little bit on R, and also with the vocals. It's kind of like painting in a way, having a lot of different brushes and a lot of different colors. We just tend to paint it all black or gray, I think. But it has to sound just exactly right, because you have to do it a lot of times, a lot of nights in a row, and it has to just be exactly how you feel. You have to be able to, express that stuff in a real, genuine way.
Yeah, I think for me as well, like there's just so much stuff I've listened to over the years that has that very, you call it, abrasive and very physical way of being played, and in some sense it just, like, it sounds like it sounds kind of stupid when you say, but just it sort of speaks to me, that kind of music. And I think the reason I find this music so meaningful to make is like it becomes, and we've said this before, it becomes an extension of us. I think we all have, not necessarily all the time, but in some senses, all three of us are very abrasive people. Like we. That's also like coming back to the discussion about being trapped in a tour bus with a band for 10 days, right? Like, it has to be certain kind of people, because we're not always the most fun guys to be around, because we have a lot of sort of I think we're trapped.
Hang-ups and stuff.
Yeah, I just think we're trapped inside of our own stupid heads a lot, and I think we have a lot of sort of not like we're not like completely off the charts or anything, but I think we all have our difficulties that we deal with. I think making this music helps deal with that a lot. I think the abrasiveness is sort of a way of getting something out of us that's inside. We all have different stories and backstories that are difficult in different senses. And I think making this music, at least for me, is very much a way of turning those internal troubles and conundrums and irritabilities and anxieties out into something outside of myself. And I think that the aim is like trying to put as much of that into the music. Like Thomas says, like it's sort of like painting, which is fun because he's sitting in front of a painting he made himself. But I think he's right. There's this quote from a book about Edvard Munch, which translates to basically the phrase that so much longing on such a small surface. So the idea that Munch could sort of pour sort of all of his emotions, all of his mental illnesses, all of his troubles, all of his longings, his desires, his regrets into like a very small painting. And when you look at it, you immediately connect and you immediately feel these emotions. You're placed in a certain sort of mood. And I think that's very much what we're aiming for when we write. It's like trying to get to the very core of something. And that is a lot of the times very abrasive.
Yeah, it seems to be the people who write this type of music, it seems to be a lot of academics, and there seems to be a lot of white collar rage that doesn't have another channel of expression. You said internalize. This allows you to externalize, doesn't it? Some of those anxieties, because, you know, you've got children, you probably have a mortgage to pay, you're responsible for other people, and that always brings pressure. And I've noticed the tagline for the band. I really like it. The positive value of negative energy is what you put.
Yeah.
So do you know, you'll hear that phrase, people self-medicate, don't they? Is this a way of you doing your own like one-way therapy, this music, perhaps?
I don't know if it's therapy as much as it's if you're in your head a lot of the time. You sort of need a way to get it out or express it in some way, and it tends for us to come out in a really violent, loud way. Yeah, what was I getting at? But I totally agree with what Peter says about the aim of the band. I think death is something that weighs heavy on all three of us. Anxiety and depression and stuff. I kind of need this music just to function in a good and positive way in the world. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be painting all the time. But it's definitely something I do because I need this, just to get through everything all the time. But yeah, you're right regarding family and responsibility and stuff. It's not like I'm rebelling anything. I quite enjoy family life, and I enjoy especially my children. But when you love something that much, you also fear loss, and you have sometimes you have regrets, and you're afraid just to lose everything and do something to fuck it up, and that can be quite hard to deal with in a day-to-day basis and in a person-to-person basis. So getting it all out in this work that we do. It's a necessity, I think. But I'm also at a point where I think just the work that we do is the most important, and all the stuff around the music is the PR and all that stuff. I'm over that stuff. I just can't do it anymore. I can't. The scene in Denmark and stuff. I can't even connect with that anymore. For me, it's just about the painting. Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I'm guessing, did you do the artwork for the album, Thomas?
Not for this one. For the first one, I did. Yeah.
What's the story behind that? Because when I look at it, it depicts to me a distorted face on like this sparkling, slushy pink canvas with horrific acid burns that have melted the eyes, nose, and mouth. There's some kind of beauty in this, though. Who's the artist, and how did you come to use this as the album artwork? I'll bring it up on screen, by the way, for this interview at this point.
Okay. I had some correspondences with the artist, who's his name is Sam B. I bought some of his paintings just because I enjoy art. And when we were trying to figure out who we wanted to do the artwork, his name just came up because I just really enjoy his stuff. He's kind of I think he's a workaholic. He's very productive, but there's a quality to it, and there's something that hits you with almost everything that he makes. It's a very physical painting. I think it suits the sound very well, and I think there's a beauty in it as well. And I think that's important, because if everything was just full on heavy and aggressive all the time, you cannot really feel the humanity behind it. And that's pretty important to our sound, that you can feel that we're not just angry guys. We're humans with a lot of different emotions. And I think the artwork, that just kind of encapsulates all that stuff.
Final question then, to wrap up this interview. So the album which was released on the 8th of March via Fushisk Format Records. What are your plans for the rest of the year? Are you going to be trying to tour outside of Northern Europe, or even perhaps come over to the UK in the next 12 months?
I think so. We just did the Demersal tour, and then we have next week we're playing a Colossal Weekend in Copenhagen, and then we're not actually playing again until August. Because we want to try and write more stuff. Maybe we want to do like an EP or whatever it amounts to. Then we're hoping to go back to Norway in the fall and in the winter, maybe. And then we hopefully will do a longer tour next year. We still have to figure out with who and how and where to. And maybe we will one day come to the UK. I think the from everyone around me, I hear it's pretty difficult with the UK thing these days. But we want to do it, but it's not it's not in the pipeline right now. We're still trying to figure out when we could do it. But hopefully we will come over there.
Yeah, I think something like that Arctangent Festival would be ideal.
Yeah.
As your first.
I agree.
Yes. They would love your music. Have you sent your album to the organizers of that festival?
I don't think so. Maybe we should.
They would love your music.
We should
need to do that.
I think I've had a keen eye on the Arctangent Festival for a few years, but we just haven't had a way in. like everything in the industry is like you have to have a way in. You have to like know somebody who knows somebody.
Thomas
And
is
so
just
far,
like done with that.
yeah. But so far we haven't known anyone who's known anyone. But now we might know someone, so we could
Yeah.
send it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, to our viewers, please give this album a listen. It's called A. That's spelled A for Alpha, R for Romeo. And as I said, it was released on the 8th of March by the highly respected Fuchs Format Records. Very big for the Danish, Norwegian, and Swedish bands, post metal, esoteric folk music, hardcore, noise rock, basically anything experimental.
Yeah.
Some really interesting music coming out. So yeah, go and check that out. And thank you very much for joining us on the channel tonight, guys.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of your weekend.
You too.
You
Thanks
too.
for having us.